Welcome to the Holistical Podcast, your premier source for everything energy psychology, holistic health, wellness, and authentic living. We explore the wisdom of ancient traditions and lived experiences alongside insights from today's modern thought leaders and wellness professionals who are making a difference in the world through collaboration and intention. Tune in for stories and sage advice on how to have it all the holistic way. Welcome to the Holistical Podcast. My name is Carrie Versalini, your host, and today we have a special guest, Stephanie Saba. And if you'd like, please introduce yourself and everything about you for people to get to know you.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Carrie.
Yeah.
So, my name is Stephanie Saba. I'd like to say that I'm a homeschool mama. I don't want to say first, I would say equally a homeschool mama and a holistic integrative therapist.
Okay.
I am a lifelong student of herbalism, and I have a organic tea business, Starseed Teas. You can reach out and have personalized blends made after having a consultation with me, or you can buy pre-made mixtures on my website. That's kind of it for the things that I'm currently doing. I seem
Okay.
to always have a lot going on, but those
Great.
are the main ones. And
Yep.
yeah, again, I'm just happy to be here. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you for coming. So today's discussion is going to be about intuition. And we both have our own perspectives on this and a lot of experience with this. So I would like to first start off the discussion today about the definition of intuition. For those who aren't aware of what intuition is, the internet says intuition is the ability to understand or know something immediately without the need for conscious reasoning or analysis. It often feels like a gut feeling or inner knowing that arises spontaneously based on subconscious processing of information, past experiences, and subtle cues. Intuition is commonly associated with deep insight, creativity, and decision making beyond logical deduction. And as a holistic practitioner, somebody that works with clients and helping them to rediscover their intuition, I also believe that intuition is born with us, that we come in as new souls, knowing who we are and who we are wanting to be in the world. And due to our lived experiences in our families, the type of constructs we're born into, that we slowly get separated and have to kind of dumb down in a way our intuition and stop ourselves from following our intuition, because oftentimes it's in conflict with the environment that we're grown into. And we think we know in our intuition, in our gut, what we want to do. And then other people have a different perspective of how they want us to do things. So I feel like that's where we start to get separated in childhood is. And then when people come to find me in my practice, they typically have completely lost connection, or most have lost connection in some way. And then we have to figure out how to relearn how to listen to that and how to get a better connection with that. So from my holistic perspective, I often teach people that intuition is our instincts born into us through evolution, the tiger that's chasing us and we need to keep ourselves safe, plus our lived experiences of things that we've gone through in our life that teach us what's safe and what's not, combining those together to give us this gut sense feeling of intuition. And when you can listen to that, in my experience and in the work that I've seen other clients do, it helps people to often avoid unfortunate challenges that they sense might happen. And then when they actually listen to their intuition, they can avoid worsening situations. And then I have dozens and dozens of stories of people being like, I had this feeling that there was something, and then now I know why I was having that feeling, because I suddenly have this experience I didn't want to have. I should have listened to that feeling. So that's just my introduction. I would love to know what your thoughts are, Stephanie.
Yeah, lots and lots of similarities. I know in my own life, not listening to that gut
Mhm.
feeling and course of action that took place after that. A lot of my clients come in similar. I think realistically we are all kind of in that fog until we decide that we want to change. Not all therapists are holistic or
Mhm.
talking about holistic ideas, integrative arts, yet most clients need that
And are looking for it.
and are looking for it,
Mhm.
right? And just ready for a little teeny bit of guidance. I say wake us up,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
We wake up. So I think intuition, similar as you said, we're born with this,
Mhm.
right? We go, we come into the world, and then boom, we forget it all.
Mhm.
And then the journey is to wake up and find it again.
Yep.
That really is the work we're doing here. We got all the other work, you know? I mean, we're
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
a lot. We're
Yeah.
moms, we're therapists, we're working, but our real work is to wake up
Yep.
to who we are.
Yep.
Intuition, true self,
Mhm.
same thing,
Mhm.
right? We're learning to find our voice again, learning to listen, learning to be in trust.
Mhm.
That one,
Yes.
very, very difficult at first. And even when you live it, can be difficult to trust yourself
Yep.
based on the things that you brought up,
Mhm.
you know, different types of life situations that we've gone through, our families, and society and the world right.
Yeah.
The world right now is so fast,
Yes.
so fast.
Mhm.
And we just have everything at our fingertips.
Mhm.
And so there's not a lot of space to quiet down. There's not a lot of space to listen. It's just a lot of distraction.
Mhm.
I wanted to share a poem, and
Okay.
I think this is a good time for it.
Great.
It ties into the societal piece a little.
Okay.
A little backstory here is that I wrote this poem, and I think I was about 20 years old.
Okay.
I have always been in and out of being very connected to my true self
Mhm.
and completely unconnected to my true self based on myriad of factors. And when I wrote this poem, I remember the whole time I was writing it, I kept saying, something's writing this through me.
Mm.
Like, I feel like something is just pushing these words through
Mhm.
me. So when I was 20, I think it was 1998. Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna give you a little reference here. Yeah, you can figure out my
Yeah.
age, whatever. The point is, in 1998,
Yeah.
we didn't have a cell phone. I mean,
Mhm.
it was very rare that anyone had a cell phone. We didn't have the internet at our fingers.
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm not an internet expert, but I don't think there was wireless going on and not a lot of people sitting.
Not in most homes.
Yeah, you know, we were plugging in. So it wasn't there yet. We weren't where we are now. But this poem is exactly where we are now.
Mm.
So I'm going to see if I can do this.
All right, let's hear this poem.
Okay. Entry level. In the beginning, divine oneness, a whole, categorized, suborganized, descended from the universal parliament. Racing down a cylindrical time warp, one way with no stop signs bound inside an extracting, retracting safety net. Breathing, feeding, breeding. Contact into a vast variety of enterprise. Breath fills unoxygenated lungs and into this world an actor, holding inside a subconscious script written in foreign dialect, decrypting, ad-libbing, restricting a truth buried by fear. Fear forcing the mechanical slide projector, fear forcing projections of falsity. Fear, a man-fueled emotion more dangerous than any nuclear explosion. Implosion of intuition. Inside the microdotted lines of our societal maps, we can weave between the lines of time and observe into the realm of surreality. Duality contains your optical eluded mind. Suspended, In the purgatorial state of being, we can resume energy, a remedy to conquer the fluid-filled time capsule, synapsal discharge, and mental collage. Visualizing high-rising, enterprising skyscrapers hovering, covering, mothering the ground below. Away we go, consumed inside our virtually revised compromise. A disguise. Improvised, demoralized, our lifelines lifeless. Continuous regression for the good of our progressive society. Bound to thee with a truth we once knew.
It's really beautiful. And you said you downloaded this, like, I don't know how many years ago that is. At this point, 90s, 20-ish years ago.
26 years ago.
So what do you feel like you were experiencing at that moment that poem came through, that really resonated?
You know, I feel like it was a foreseeing. It was something reminding me to stay connected.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I feel like it was a foreseeing. And the reason that I brought it today is it seems so pertinent, right? When we talk about things like ADD, ADHD, and I'm not saying that there's not true forms of this thing, ADHD.
Yep.
Really, we're all experiencing these symptoms that look exactly like that because we're so distracted, right? And when I was thinking about intuition, it's these distractions. It's these, and life is not a distraction. So like I said, this is the work, right? This is why we're here.
Yep.
I love the term schoolroom earth,
I don't think I've heard that term before.
Oh, I love it. That we come here in schoolroom earth to practice and feel the things that we don't have. I don't know. I call it the ether, what the heck, right? But that space before we come here, right? And so maybe there's some conflict. Maybe in general, we're feeling pretty good in that space. And the desire of the soul is to learn and know more, to experience like despair and hatred and judgment and deep, deep sadness. And so we choose. I love. There's a book, Soul's Plan. I don't know if have you heard of Soul Plan? That. This one's. I love this, and I recommend it to clients a lot.
Who is it written by?
So it's called Your Soul's Plan, and it's written by Robert Schwartz.
Okay.
Now, I'm really bad with details off the cuff, but the basis of this book is that this guy went to somebody who does pre-birth planning.
Okay.
So if you know about pre-birth planning, the concept is that we create a plan before we come here, and we enlist. I don't know if that's the best word, but we enlist other souls to also be in this plan, and we're working together, and we're saying, hey, I need you to, in this next time around, I need you to be my mom, right?
Yep.
But I need you to just only conditionally love me, right? That's just an example, right? And maybe
to cause contrast,
to cause that, and the soul we're speaking to might say I love you. I don't want you to do that, right? So we work this out, and then we have free will as well. But the idea is we come in to the world and forget the entire thing, and then we're playing out and experiencing, maybe waking up to this plan. So in the book, we come back, we're born, and we need to play these out. Hence, schoolroom earth. This is our playground. This is the place that we get to experience all of the things that we're not having in that more blissful space. So that was a long explanation as to where schoolroom earth came from for me, but it's something that really sticks with me. It's something that I think can be helpful for a lot of people, for us to just remember that that's what's happening here. It's a emotional playground. It's experience playground, and it's all learning. All learning.
Yeah. And I think I'd like to expand more about the thoughts of one, some people may not be familiar with the term higher self. So I know for my exposure to the term higher self, for me, that has been taught as, we have these souls that are multi-dimensional, even timelines that we're up in higher energy, and we always have this higher energy that remains connected to us when we come down into a physical body. And when you're here on earth, once your intuition starts to kind of separate from you, you also lose more of that connection to your higher self. And so the journey of rediscovering intuition is really about also potentially reconnecting to your higher self, who knows all of the things that you are supposed to experience in this lifetime and knows how to get you back on your path should you choose to try to find out where that path is and how to follow it again. So when it comes to higher self and us getting separated from our higher self and our intuition, and then we bring in the soul family, right? And how we're born into a certain soul family, again, from certain perspectives. You may not have these same belief systems, and that's totally fine. Whatever works for your belief system is what you should follow. This is just one perspective. So the perspective that I'm most aware of is one that we kind of come into from higher energy, all universal energy. We come down into our bodies in this physical world, that our souls do have connections to other souls when we come in, which is also why when you meet somebody for the first time and you're like, I feel like I've known you forever. That makes so much sense to me if you look at it from that perspective, that you have this soul family, whether they be through friends, whether they be through actual family, whether they be through colleagues, that you come in and you're connected and you're meant to go through certain experiences with these people for your learning lessons. And I think that's where probably that school earth perspective comes in, where you have these constructs that you're supposed to, operate through your life so that you can have certain lessons to create the dynamic that you need to on this planet, and also live certain things to teach your soul. So if you do believe in reincarnation or whatever, and your soul comes down again, that you would then perhaps be further along in the soul's journey the next time you come in, because we are in this eternal learning process. And there's no judgment about any of those things that you go through in this life. We're not meant to, and this is my perspective. Hopefully you can tell me whether or not you resonate with it, that we don't come here expecting to have a perfect life. We come here with the purpose of actually going through challenges, learning how to expand from those challenges, making mistakes, failing at times, and not falling apart when we go through those things, but hopefully rising to the occasion and overcoming these challenges so that we can then process to a higher level of our functioning in this lifetime. And so I don't know what your thoughts are on that. Do you agree with that?
I absolutely agree with that. I was having this really nice visual actually while you
Mm.
were saying that,
Mm.
of almost like love bullets. That's
Love
not,
bullets.
that
Interesting.
is not
That's an
right.
interesting term that comes
I
through.
could see like little piercings
Mm.
of each experience
Mm.
going into somebody and then exploding into this like beautiful light.
Mm.
So as you were explaining it, my mind was like seeing this human being,
Mhm.
and then the penetration that happened within the soul as we move through these experiences.
Yep.
And it opened if we're ready.
Mhm.
If
Yeah.
we're ready. And if we're not, a
Mhm.
lot of what you said in the beginning is what happened. I remember maybe I was 5.
Mhm.
I have a very vivid memory of leaving my body. We had 3 kids. So, bedtime wasn't let's read 3 chapters of a book and hang out. It was,
Right.
honey, go to bed, read your
Mhm.
book. So I had a lot of time
Mm.
while I was falling asleep,
Mhm.
right? And it was always, I was not asleep, maybe sleepy and a little like on the way, but still pretty lucid.
Mhm.
And I could literally feel my body. Like I could feel in my stomach,
Mm.
and I could feel myself on the ceiling, and I could move through my house.
Interesting.
I don't have memories of what or if I saw,
Mm.
but for me, that's a very profound reminder that the soul was exploring. And there's this idea,
Mhm.
again, whether or not we're in that school of thought, but there is this idea that we're born and we forget, yet we're still so open, still so open.
Mhm.
And I don't know, maybe you've heard this, something about the veil kind of starts
Mm.
to close around 8 or 9, they
Mm.
say.
Okay.
And usually it's because of social constructs,
Mm.
right? This is the age where, and I'm not,
Mhm.
an expert on child development.
Mm.
My
Mhm.
understanding is that this is the age
Mm.
where we start to get more aware about the constructs that are the social constructs
Mhm.
around us. Maybe it's friendships or relationships. If we go to school, expectations. If not, the expectations that maybe our parents are having. And the idea is that it just closes.
Mm.
But up until then, children are said to be able to see and connect and just be more like
Mhm.
in that spirit world still. And yeah, that memory is so interesting.
That would make sense if children were allowed to stay in that spirit world a little longer, because I know that there are stories out there of children having experiences with spirit. Not to say that every child has this ability, but there are some children out there that have such sensitivity to being able to perceive other energies around them, whether or not it's spirit, whether or not it's energies of a certain place or a certain thing around them, that they just feel like they're more attuned to the energy that's coming off of something. And with kids that have those abilities, also, we find that, society doesn't really know how to manage those experiences for those children,
Mm.
which again, creates potential issues with, if it gets into like a mainstream situation like bullying, if kids, are having this type of experience publicly. But it also, unless the parent is kind of open to exploring what might be potentially happening, there could be a lot of that, again, constraint being put on, which if somebody's having these pulls and these experiences and they don't have the freedom to at least describe them, at least try to get some understanding for them, then they're gonna inherently lack support on how to process them, and often the safety also to know how to manage them. And I know if people have heard of the Long Island medium. I forget what her name is off the
I
top of my head right
can't.
now.
I haven't watched her
Teresa.
stuff. Oh,
Teresa
Teresa.
Caputo. So she talks about when she was a very small child that she would have these kind of intuitive awarenesses that there were spirits around her all the time, and her family didn't know how to manage it growing up. So she ended up deciding that she needed to kind of close off all of her energy and became more fearful about it. And then as she continued to grow, she had fearful experiences. She developed a lot of anxiety until she got to the place where she decided to explore more of her abilities. And then she expanded into welcoming that in and learning how to have a safe container for herself to welcome in those guidances and those pieces. I'm not saying that intuition is inherently connected to spirit uh, perception, but it is something that happens out there. The part that resonates for me around the intuition is, regardless of if you're picking up other perceptions of spirit or something, we first have to listen to what is happening in our own body. And when we come into a construct in a family that does not allow us to listen to what our guidance is saying, then we learn that it's not safe enough to listen to it, and then we shut it down. So then years later, when you are still in your, maybe in your 30s, 40s, 50s, oftentimes those are the types of people that come into my office where they have been conditioned to have no connection to themselves because other people found it inconvenient for them. It did not allow them to fit into the box that society had expected of us. Again, going back to this busyness all the time, I have no space to be able to connect with my intuition or to be able to listen to our gut when our gut is saying, get out of this situation. You need to, because you've always had to listen to other people's needs before your own, because that's what you've been conditioned to do. So I don't know if you have any experiences also that resonate with that. that you want to talk about?
Absolutely. I just want to also say, just coming back to this children in spirit,
Mm-hmm.
it's a whole nother topic, but children being put on medication,
Mm.
children receiving hefty diagnoses, when really we're not exploring this other
Mm-hmm.
piece and
Mm-hmm.
just how detrimental that can be. So I just wanted to say that as a book, children's spiritual lives or the lives of spiritual children. And I didn't dig deep into this man,
Mm-hmm.
but Robert Coles has a book of drawings that he's collected over years of working with children. And it's just so beautiful to see because you can see all of their like spirit world out and they're explaining to him who they're talking to or what they're seeing. And it's a really powerful, I think most therapists, especially working with kids, should take a look just to get an idea because the concept feels out there for some of us.
Yeah.
You know,
unless you work with highly sensitive and empathic people.
well, and that's
Because
where,
that would,
yes,
yes.
that's where I was going to go with my own experience. And when you were talking about shutting off, and even in my poem, fear, and forcing the mechanical slide projector, that's your mind, right?
Yeah.
But it's fear that rule. I mean, we can be so easily programmed when we are in fear.
And when we're disconnected from our intuition.
We will disconnect completely when we're in fear, right? Because it's such a low vibration. And so for me, it was like, yeah, I have this deep knowing. I know things. I feel like I know things. I feel like I'm connected through my not really understanding it. No one sitting down and saying like, oh, honey, this is what that is. Or you should nurture that because, we forgot. Everyone forgot. No one's helping now. And so knowing this thing is there, kind of connecting at times and going through all the societal steps and the schools and the this and the that. And all of a sudden I'm not going up on the ceiling, right? And I'm not connecting deeply. And so for me, I was also very into like holistic medicine stuff at a young age.
Because of the exposure of your family?
No, this was an intuition. This was me from probably like, I remember in high school, I ate fast food. I was still into that vibe of not really understanding. I would say after my first year of college, that might have been the last time I ever ate fast food. It was all intuition. Don't put that in your body. You don't need these things. I don't need ibuprofen. I can try this. And there was one natural medicine store in my town, right? One. It's still there. And, I would go in there and I don't know who was going in there. I mean, it's still there, small. And I was always working with natural medicine. And I'm talking about this and tying it in terms of, again, where's my tribe? Where's my tribe? Where's the people that are talking about this knowing that are using natural medicine? And they're nowhere. And you get beat down. After a while, you're like, all right, I'll just take the ibuprofen. Stop offering it and I'll just take the ibuprofen. Or this is an easier route. And, I got lost. Like, let it go. Sit down. Like, this is a lot. This is hard to do. This is, I'm getting met with resistance from my family. My friends think I'm crazy or I'm talking about this thing and everything. So
it sounds like you didn't have a mentor at that point.
Oh, no. And the mentor was life, and life was being immersed in all the distractions. I was in my 20s when I was writing that poem. And I remember I said to a friend, I feel everybody's energy. I don't know what's happening, but whenever I'm in a space, I feel everybody. Like, I think I hear it sometimes, but I feel everybody's stuff. Like, I don't understand what this is. And my friend didn't know a lot about it, but he knew a little about it. His mom was really, I think, a spiritual practitioner maybe. And so he didn't really explain it, but he said, you gotta shield yourself,
So I would love to continue expanding on this in an additional podcast because there's so much to talk about as it relates to highly sensitive and empathic people. And I'm wanting to make sure that people are hearing if there's a difference between being an empath and just being intuitive. Because I do feel like there's a lot of people that are empathic and highly sensitive that don't have like the languaging of the experiences and so on to understand that that's what they're going through. And
Yes.
we definitely can expand on that in an additional podcast episode.
Yeah.
Intuition, I feel like everybody has the ability to connect to that, but that's not unique to highly sensitive and empathic people. So I want to make sure that we keep kind of close
Yeah.
in on that conversation.
Yep. And I could talk a lot about that. This was my journey of shutting it down.
Okay.
Here it is. I don't know what's going on. And even the people who I feel connected to or might have spiritual aren't understanding it.
Yep.
And so I would say probably around 2022,
Mhm.
I just didn't shield. I didn't know what that was. I blocked.
Mm.
I blocked whatever you want to call it. Empathy, that sensitivity, and that intuition, right? It didn't fully come back until I had my daughter.
Okay.
I would say that's when it came back.
What did that look like when it came back?
Oh, it was ugly at
Mm.
first.
Mm.
It was absolutely ugly. It was all the things. It was all the trauma. It was everything stored in my body that I probably ignored, all coming to a surface. It was me being told it was postpartum, which I had a lot of physical trauma, and I do believe it was physical to an extent. This was highly energetic.
Gotcha.
Did I know that at the time? No. But I knew I was not okay. I was just desperate to come back to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't sure how to get there for a long time.
So,
go ahead.
So when you say when your daughter came around, that's when your intuition started to try to reconnect. What was the thing that you first realized that this was your intuition? Like, was it decisions that you needed to make about your child? Was it decisions about how your body was going to heal or your birthing process?
No.
What was it?
This is what happened. I was struggling, had a lot of physical, didn't wake up to it right away.
Mhm.
Took some medications that were not good for me, had to get off of those.
Mhm.
At some point, I needed surgery on my back.
Oh.
My daughter was 2. And this is what happened. My husband got me a gift certificate
Mhm.
for a Thai massage.
Okay.
I said, okay. I didn't know I was going to need surgery then. I was in a lot of pain. This woman came to my office to give me this massage at the end of the day. She put her hands on me to move my body. And I started to pour tears. It's like, what's happening, And she just put her hands on me and she told me everything. I mean, she was like, this is from this. And I'm not going to say exact things because it's personal.
Yeah.
But I mean, I looked at her and she said, you have a gift. I can feel that. I want you to train with me. Would you want to do that? I'm an energy healer. I do the massage, but I do these things. And I was like, okay, thanks. That was great. I don't know. I left. I was like, I can't think about that right now,
Yeah.
But obviously something inside me is going like, no, you knew things, right? And I'm going, no, you knew things, but no, I don't have time. I'm in pain. I'm not sleeping. I'm running a business. And then I had to have back surgery. And it was a package deal. So I said to my husband, go to this woman. And he comes back from the massage and I'm like, so? He's like, it was a massage. I'm like, no, she didn't put your hand. She didn't tell you your whole life, And he's like, no, Stephanie. I mean, it was a good massage. And I was like, all right, something's happening. I still can't think about this. I had surgery. I'm doing yoga. So I'm starting to meditate a little bit. I was like, okay, I got myself off the meds. It's a very long road. Did not have support by providers. So that took a lot of self-driven energy. And my husband said, you should go get a massage, right? He said, what do you think? And I said, find me that lady. And I found her and I went. And she said, oh my God, I thought I scared you off. This is a year or so later, maybe 2 years later. I think 2. And I thought I scared you. I kept pushing for you to do. And I was like, no, you didn't scare me. And she's like, how are you doing? And I was like, blah, blah, blah. And she said, and she put her hands on me and told me everything I was feeling. And I was like, yes, and I need this inner child work. And she gave me little inner child work with some stretching. And she said, come to a meditation. I ran a meditation on this night. okay, I'll come. And when I sat down to do the meditation, immediately, and I'm very clear audio, if that
Mm,
resonates. I mean, not
mhm,
everyone knows what that is. It means like
mhm.
messages come through in words for me.
Yep. So it's almost
Sometimes
like you're hearing them?
I can hear it.
Okay.
So it
Mhm.
was a voice that said Kali. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting, right?
Mm,
I'm dabbling with yoga. I did a yoga where this woman said, yes, we're gonna call in Kali for this energy.
okay.
So I did the yoga. This was before I did the meditation. And I went, this is Kali. I'm gonna get a book. And I bought a book. And I opened the book and I was like, oh heck no. This
Mm,
is like not, I don't even know what this book's saying. I just
mm,
chucked it in
mhm,
my room, you know. I was like,
mhm.
I have no desire to read that.
Yeah.
So now I'm hearing this name. What is this? And I forget the exact message, but my guides came through. I said, where are your guides? And I said, I don't trust you. And
Mhm,
they said, what do you mean you don't trust us? We're the only ones who have stayed by you. You need to trust us. Oh, I'll get teary. Like, you need to
mm,
trust us.
mhm,
And it might take time, but we've been here for you. Like, pay attention, you know? And so that was like the beginning of the waking up for me, the
mhm.
bringing it back. And from there, I might have went to one or two more of her meditations, but I just started meditating. And also, I mean, the benefit was the world shut down.
Mm,
Not always a benefit, but the
mm.
benefit of
Some
it,
people did benefit from that.
yeah,
Mm,
is that I had space to
mhm.
do these things.
Yep.
And so I just started meditating on my own.
Which I think is a great practice for people who are wanting to actually learn how to reconnect to their intuition, because meditation requires you to quiet the mind, quiet the body, and just get into this receiving space of whatever guidance needs to come to you about what you need to focus on. And if we don't have that, like you said, the world shut down and it created that space for you, whether or not maybe you would have come to it in that timing. Maybe it might have still happened at some point, but
Yeah.
in that timing, clearly it was divine for you to actually allow yourself to go into it.
Yeah. And also, I will tell you that many moons ago, I was the therapist that said, I'm not going to make you meditate. Nope.
Mhm. Mhm.
Nope.
Mhm.
And what I will say is to this day, I need active meditation. So I need movement.
Mm.
I need breath work. I need something to come up so that I can come down. And I think it's just important when we talk about meditation to talk about the fact that it doesn't always have to be quiet or
Mhm.
still. I have so many people who come to me, I can't do that. I'm not doing that, right?
Mhm.
And I'm thinking, yeah, I
Mhm.
get it. And you actually don't have to do it that
Yep.
way, right?
Yep. And there's also guided meditation.
And there's
A
guided.
lot of people have very racing minds that don't allow them to actually quiet their mind enough to sit down and meditate.
Exactly.
That's a lot of the clients come to me like, I can't sit still. I can't, just tune everything out and be quiet. That's just not going to work for me. But so those types of people, I always recommend find a guided meditation with somebody that has a soothing voice to you. Whatever gender that voice might be, whatever background sound that comes with, find something that sounds like you can relax your body enough and have somebody actually walk you through what to do in a meditation so that you can receive the benefits of meditating. And once you get practiced with the guided meditation, then maybe start to try out 5 minutes of quiet meditation where you're just not talking, you're sitting in a comfortable position, you are allowing your brain to wander and then intentionally bringing it back to just being present, breathing, allowing, and then grow from there. And it does take everybody's a different journey for that.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to be on a different timeline, different processes, and you just again need to listen to what your body is telling you you need to know what's right for you.
Exactly. Yes. And, even allowing half of your mind to just do it, do
Mhm.
the thing, right? So
Mhm.
I have a very busy mind. And sometimes in meditation, the only way to connect for me is to just let it run. Okay. So you're running and I can hear it. and all the stuff's going over here, but I'm hanging out over here,
Mm.
hanging out over here. Just a simple way to separate it, that it can be happening, and yet you don't have to be attuned to it,
Yep.
right? Even if it's loud, just let it be there. Just let it be there.
Mhm.
Yeah. And for me, it was not normal meditation. So it was hard for me at first to help other people meditate. I was like, I would go deep, and I really think it was a lot of channeling of different energies that were showing me things. When I say waking up, I mean, it was tons of messages, very necessary messages to kind of crack me open. And that's not going to happen for everybody. So here I am.
Yep.
I'm not a meditator, and, I'm not going to make you meditate. And I'm doing this thing and I'm calling it meditation, but then I'm talking to people and they're going, I've meditated like half my life and I want that.
Mm.
What is it? And that's when I went, oh, I'm not meditating. I got to learn how to meditate.
Yeah.
So it was actually a backwards
Interesting.
process.
Okay.
And it was really getting to know my guide, and getting to know them allowed me to then come to a place in my body where I could meditate.
Yep. And I just want to highlight that you sound like you aligned with guides, whereas some other people might align with whatever your belief system is. Maybe you receive messages from God. Maybe you
Absolutely.
receive messages from the divine Buddha. Whatever your belief system is, when you get messages, use whatever language works for you. This is not at all specific to belief system. It's really just about receiving information that you can be valuing in your everyday experience to enhance your experience living in the world, and learning how to actually take that information and integrate it in your life and then see the benefits of that, and not being scared by receiving these messages.
Yes. And I don't know if you listen to Lee Harris. So Lee Harris, he's someone who channels. But the thing that I like about him is he's like a life coach. And he does a lot of work about connecting or reconnecting to your intuition. And an exercise that he has that's so simple. And I tell my clients all the time, just try this, right? Just sit down and say, what does my soul want me to know? What does my true self want me to know? We don't have to call it the soul. What is it? We can call it whatever resonates, but what does my true self want me to know? And then just write whatever comes out, right? And the way he explains it is, when he has a group do this and he says, okay, like what happened? And people will say like, nothing really happened. Like, okay, what was the message, right? Oh, well, the message was, I love you. Okay, well, do you say that to yourself regularly? No, you just had a connection. And I love it because so simple, but so profound. And we can all do that. We don't have to have a guide. We don't have to have a belief. Let's just see what comes through, right?
Yep.
We're just starting to connect with ourselves.
And then what's the harm of allowing it to settle? So you could fight it, or you could allow it to settle without any expectation and just say, you know what? Here's a new offering. What do I got to lose by allowing it to resonate, for me to adopt a little bit of it and see what's possible from it? You don't have to fully believe in it, but maybe just try it out. Maybe just see what would happen if I just tried this, following this guidance I'm getting, and how would that be different than what I've previously done? Let me just see what happens if I were to just say, I'm going to say yes to this today, instead of say, oh, this is too inconvenient. I can't do this right now. I'll get to it eventually, blah, blah, blah. And then it gets you to a place where you're still out of sync with yourself and you're still not receiving all of the guidance that could help you find an easier process of life. And that's often what I've found intuitively, is when I get kind of guidance from whatever my higher power is, I feel like if I follow it, it speeds up the process so much more. And it's just so much more pleasant to have and then you feel confident. You're like, wow, that was really easy. Let's more of that. Like every day, all day, more of that. And that, I think, actually personally has been challenging, because in my experiences, I've had a lot of that stuff line up, because I discovered my intuition so early. It was probably my early 20s when I discovered my intuition, and I just started following the guidance of it. And then a bunch of people are like, "Well, life is just easy for you. Everything just comes easy for you." And it wasn't necessarily easy along the way, but to the outside world, it seemed so much easier for me versus them in their life. And they just I don't know if there was a little bit of jealousy there or if a little bit of just misunderstanding or maybe even just some contrast of them realizing that they're not connected and I'm super connected. And so, especially when you start listening to guidance too, and you are around others who may not believe in that stuff or may have intentional contrast against you because you were not doing what they want, then just know that maybe you need to keep your self discovery process right now closer to the vest. Get it under your belt, feel confident about it before you let other people in to potentially kind of disconnect you from whatever you're going through and the process of expanding that you're going through. And you'll get there eventually where it's automatic. It's not efforting anymore to kind of bring your brain back to being in that space to be receptive. And I'm just looking at the time. I want to end on this. We're both therapists, and I feel like we're both obviously intuitive therapists. So I would love to talk a little bit about the difference between being an intuitive therapist versus being a traditional therapist. In your experience, what you feel like you provide that's different than a traditional route that's not an intuitive. And then I'll share some of mine as well.
Yeah. So I will say, first of all, that even though I said I reclaimed my intuition with my
Mm-hmm.
child, but it's always been there in waves and in different forms.
Hmm.
And I was actually thinking right before you said this about how it's come through in my therapy work, even if I wasn't doing intuitive therapy or integrative holistic style therapy, right?
Mm.
In my very early years, starting out, you have a little toolbox and you really got to build your toolbox.
Yep.
So you kind of get in the seat and you're ready to go and you're like, okay, I got a couple things. I hope
Hmm.
they're right. And I found that so many times I was just guided to
Mm.
do these things with these clients,
Hmm.
whatever the things were. And later I would learn, oh, that's a therapy technique. Oh, that's something that is actually I could take a training in. Weird. It just, I wouldn't even call it a download. It wasn't
Yeah.
like wasn't even an aha. It was just a flow, a very being in flow, which is a
Hmm.
whole nother topic, right? Stay in there. But
Hmm.
it was definitely connected and intuitive in terms of feeling or knowing what that person needed and then reaching into the vault that
Hmm.
wasn't even in
Yep.
my toolbox yet and bringing that to them. So that's interesting because
Mhm.
it's come through my work even before I decided that it was something I wanted to focus on.
Gotcha.
And now it's just interwoven. There's no,
Hmm.
I'm not going to do therapy with somebody without talking about your true self. I'm just not.
Hmm.
And, for some people, it's great. And for other people, they're going to go to somebody who does straight CBT, and that's fine. Right. But for me, it has to be combined and it needs to be a mind body
Hmm.
connection. So when you were talking about the intuit, like if you just try it on, just,
Hmm.
see what it's like, I was thinking, and check in with the body, check in with the body, check in with the body
Mm.
all the time, right? Because the message might come through and you
Yep.
might be like, I
Yeah.
don't know what that is. See what you're feeling, right? Because it needs to be a total connection. And that's how we start to read it, right?
Yep.
For ourselves. Testing in the real world, maybe a little trust, plugging it in here and there,
Hmm.
but constantly checking in with what's going on in my body, right? And
Hmm.
is it resonating and is it feeling right? And
Hmm.
is it do these two things
Yep.
align?
I would say too, for me as a therapist that works in the intuitive realm, is that I think the way that I approach clients in the work that I do with them is it's one of my first kind of screenings in working with people is, are you connected to your intuition? Other therapists, traditional root therapists might just focus on your symptomology, what are your inherent background considerations and so on. I first want to know whether or not you're even connected to your intuition. And if you're not connected to your intuition, then what may have stopped you from being connected to your intuition? Oftentimes for people, that is a trauma challenge from earlier in life where they had to learn to shut off their intuition because their intuition was screaming, get me out of this situation, or this isn't right. And yet their environment was saying, this is right. This is reality. And so, in order to stay safe and to stay protected internally, you had to learn how to put up walls. And so, when I have new clients come in, a lot of the time, they don't even have the language of what's my body feeling because they've become so disconnected from their body for safety reasons over life. And so when they are trying to reconnect or in need of reconnecting, if you find that as a person you have a very hard time figuring out how your body is feeling, being able to process those feelings without having a meltdown, that may be a sign that you need some support in getting reconnected to your intuition, getting reconnected in somatic practices with a therapist instead of just doing talk therapy because your
Absolutely.
body's totally dysregulated. And if you're not in your body, it is so hard to integrate anything that's therapeutically helpful because your body won't trust any new information if you don't find that kind of solid foundation within yourself. So I would say, from my perspective as an intuitive therapist, I do believe that the future of therapy is going in the direction of having therapists be more intuitive because clients feel very resonating with somebody who can kind of sense what's going on with them. So that when you walk through the door, you're not just like, "Oh, okay, so tell me your story." And then when they tell the story at the end, they're just like, "Okay, well, we're out of time. I'll see you next week." And a lot of the people that find me are looking for my approach because they feel like they've been left in the dust by other traditional root therapists that either want to give them a pill to just fix their symptoms, or they're just listening or giving practices or, a bunch of homework that they don't even understand why they're doing the homework. And as an intuitive therapist, I meet you where you're at when you come in. We figure out what you need that moment. Yes, we have some goals. Yes, we have an idea of where you want to go in the future, but let's figure out what you need right now. And then we'll weave in those other pieces as we keep you stable. If you're not stable, it's going to be so hard to integrate anything that's useful. So let's triage the dysregulation first. Do those somatic things. Learn how to listen to your gut instinct. And then once you have those pieces involved and you're able to use those things regularly, then we can go a little deeper into some of the roots of it. And I'm sure you probably agree with this. I'm not going to take somebody into a super deep place if you are not going to be grounded,
Oh, no, 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 no,
because
no.
you're just going to be sent out the door being even more dysregulated, maybe even further traumatized, and then have an additional trauma experience of being in a therapist's office that you didn't feel actually felt helpful.
Oh, absolutely. I do EMDR, and a lot of times people will call and say, "Oh, my therapist wants me to come to you for EMDR." And I say, "Well, you might find a therapist that's going to just do the EMDR, right? You can make money, you can do whatever. I'm not going to do that.
Yep.
You're going to come in. We're
Yep.
going to start exactly as you said. Let's see where you're at. What tools do we need to plug in so that you can regulate yourself?
Yeah.
How can you know when you're dissociating or if you're dissociating? And how can we bring you into your body?
Yep.
How do we? I do the same thing. Going to come into the body first. Once we're there,
Feeling safe.
feeling safe, feeling grounded, then we can start to talk about EMDR. We're not just jumping into it. We're going to talk about it, right?
Yep.
Because exactly what you said. And I don't speak eloquently. I'm a fast thinker, and so I'm not, and I don't use a lot of jargon. It's just who I am. I like to keep it very simple. And sometimes I think even so, like, it seems simpler than what I'm doing. You're talking and I'm going, "Oh yeah, that's what I do."
Yeah.
Oh, that's a really good way to say that. Because I'm just kind of somewhere in the ether, somewhere here. And
Yeah.
so yes, but
Yeah.
it's so important. And that
Yeah.
is exactly where we start. And I always tell my clients, like, that homework, it's CBT or whatever form of it is, right?
Yep.
If you pay attention to the spiritual parts, to these intuitive guidance kind of, gurus that we listen to that tell us, how to get to this place, it has to start with connecting to yourself. It has to start from being able to be in your body and connect to true self, whatever we want to call it. Once we're there, Yeah, then we can do CBT, because a lot of the manifesting work that you like listen to, all of that, it's a lot.
So as far as manifesting goes, as a clinical practitioner, I see law of attraction work as cognitive reprogramming. It's not woo-woo stuff.
Yeah.
Cognitive reprogramming is used in all therapy. It's how to reprogram the brain with the beliefs and patterns that you've had from before and how to reset them and make new ones. And that's exactly what law of attraction does, which is also why I integrate that as an intuitive therapist, because it gives another kind of formula for people to start approaching learning how to listen to their guidance and the feeling states and all that stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, it's all connected.
Yeah.
We just live in a world where we jump straight to the fix, right? Oh, just challenge thoughts, change behavior, feeling will follow. No, it won't. It won't until you can trust and believe that, until you can be present, right? Then yes, it will. But if we're going in expecting that to make magic, we come out worse, because then we start the self-judgment. Why can't I? And we have to start all over and come back to our body, and back to ourselves, back to that connection.
So I think we should end this episode by sharing some questions that our listeners should be asking themselves to find out if they are connected to their intuition or not. I think what I would suggest people asking is, 1, do you feel connected to your body in a safe way regularly? And if not, do you know where that stems from for you? 2nd, do you have any history of knowingly being told not to listen to yourself in order to make other people more comfortable, i.e., not having boundaries with other people? And 3, I would say, have you always felt like there was something that was unexplainable trying to boil up within you, and you just haven't figured out how to line up with it and welcome it in? I would say those would be some top 3 questions that I would recommend people asking to figure out where they are on their personal journey. What do you have some thoughts on?
Do I take the time to talk to myself? Do I listen? And if I do, what am I hearing? And what information is that giving me? Right. I mean, you covered the safety, so I'm going to go to the...
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. I mean, do I do that? Because we don't do that so often. And when we start to pay attention, there's a wealth of information going on all day long that we're not even hearing. We might not like it. So if you do tap into this and it feels ugly or, right?
Yep.
That's good. That means you're getting information.
Yep.
And now we can work with that information. You can work with that information.
Yep.
I really like, what does my soul want me to know? Do I take the time to sit down with myself? Or can you take the time to sit down with yourself? And if you can't, what is happening? What does come up? Where do you feel it? And what activates? This is all just information gathering, right?
Yeah.
But if we gather this information, then we have something to work with, right?
And I think if you have one tip to start the process of getting connected with your intuition, what tip would you give people?
One tip: allow yourself the opportunity to trust what you're hearing inside of you. Just start, really just start listening. And like I said, like you said, don't be afraid of it. And it might be things that are covering, there may be things not letting you there, but just start listening. And if it's yucky, reach out. Don't ignore it. Don't cover it up. Let that yuck come out or come to the surface, and then give yourself the opportunity to go beyond it. But we have to start by listening. We have to start by paying attention, no matter how scary that is. And it is scary.
Yeah.
It really can be.
And I would add, my tip is kind of on the back after what you said of the listening, is to be in observation, non-judgmentally. So just noticing. Don't expect to fix it. Don't expect to change it. Don't feel like you have to even understand it, but just noticing, observing what's coming up for you, and then write it down. Write down these little notices and observations that come up for you in a safe place where you know you can go back to it. Likely those little things that come up will make sense for you at some point where you need to use it. So observe, make note, and try to stay out of non-judgment. And then if you feel like you need more support with it, reach out to people like me and Stephanie, because we know how to support you in this journey. And there's lots of people out there, whatever realm you feel like you're pulled to find these types of people that can help you on this journey. Just listen to what your gut says about it as much as you can, because your gut knows the person you need to work with. And that may be a totally different person than the next person who's standing next to you on the same journey.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just want to say I tell my clients, just put your detective cap on. Just take all the other stuff off and just, right? Detective has no judgment, just paying attention. So that was a nice way to end that.
And then I would love to have you share what your website is for people to get in touch with you if they would like to work with you.
Absolutely. www.stephaniesaba.com. It's STEPHANIESABA.com.
Great. Thank you very much. And it's lovely to have you for this conversation today. And we could talk for hours on this topic because there's so much to be discussed. And in a future episode, there will definitely be one or more co-hosts with me talking about the empath HSP situation, because again, there's so much desire to learn about that and just having that background information. And I have some tools and I have some information that I would love to share. So follow-up podcast at some point. That's definitely going to be a topic we cover.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love
come back and talk
about that more.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a great day. Thank you so much. And stay tuned for the next episode, and make sure you like this video, share it with people who might also need to know this information, subscribe to the channel so you get all the updates of the new things coming up, and then we'll see you at the next one. So have a great day.